Hi guys, there's a lot of drama unfolding in the zombies Easter egg solving community right now because it seems like all future relics for Black Ops 7 zombies are going to be data mined the second they release, and all currently existing relics have been data mined and are now solved. Yeah, bit suspicious. So to understand what's going on here and the timeline of events, I think we're going to use the Nanakos Twitter feed. He's got a really good recap of all of this kind of as time has passed. So let's start with January 26th. Zone says there was a relic that was solved with data mining and says that basically people found a light model that was referred to in the strings, and then they played around with the light and they found that in Blender it looked like it was also an Easter egg related model, and then it got solved. That was sort of Zone's sort of synopsis of things. Nanakos says something slightly different. He says the map came out. That's Astra. He put out the strings. There was the rod, you know, the lightning rod that we'd all found like day 1 or day 2 of Astra launch. There was that, but no one knew what to do with it, so nothing happened for a long time in regards to solving it. Then someone pointed out that interactable objects show up in red thermal, and light stands out as one of these objects. So the lights that are in question here were seemingly an Easter egg object based on the thermal scope. Then Nanakos looks at the model, notices that there's 2 models, one for an on light and one for an off light, which is very suspicious. Then no one proceeds to look into the lights anymore, and then Hey goes into Blender, the lights get brought up again as interactable entities, and then the light suddenly has attention, people look into it properly, and Cool Guy solves the relic. So you're probably thinking, that doesn't sound like the most sort of extreme data mining in the world. Sure, there's data mining going on here to look at the strings. There's data mining here to look at the models in Blender that prompted the community to look back into the light, even though it had already been found with the thermal scope. Like, these things are happening, but it's not just a carte blanche instant solve. So what's the big deal? So let's move on from here, right? This is like, by comparison, in a minute, this is going to look like Child's Play. This is going to look like baby's first data mine, right? Just you wait. So that was January 26th. Then, 11 hours ago, which was on the 29th of January, the Civil Protector relic on Astra is now fully solved. Oh, amazing. Okay. You need to detonate an energy mine by Tessie. Tessie's lights will flash 3 times. Then the individual lights on Tessie flash, giving an order that you need. And this is a little diagram of how it looks. Nanakos then says, credit goes to this team on Billy for finding this. That's a sentence I don't think I've ever said before in the history of zombies. So when I saw this last night, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, global zombies community coming through. One of the teammates was in VC typing to us in Chinese. Crazy. They said they'd been messing with energy mine in the game, but weren't sure if it was the trigger. Credit to Con in the Zone Discord for confirming the energy mine trigger, and these are the screenshots. So again, right now, you might be thinking, well, this doesn't seem all that bad, right? It's just a team from China that seems to have figured it out, and they've been typing in the Discord, and this looks like a translation maybe, or maybe this is this person attempting to speak in English. Attacking the hood with a super powerful modified weapon, just like using a battery, might cause lights to come on. So this was cool at first. It seemed organic as far as I could tell, at least from looking at Nanakos' posts here. But then we keep going. Here's a detailed guide on how to acquire the Silver Protector head relic. And basically, you have to have PhD flopper. You need to get to around 60 plus with energy mine, and then you use it next to Tessie. Tessie's lights will flash 3 times. Then each of these lights correlate to the positions of the 4 chandeliers inside the museum. So you use the explosions caused by PhD near each chandelier to extinguish the candle flames in that order, and that will then complete the relic challenge. So this is a fairly complex solve. Like, this is not super straightforward by any means. It requires you to find multiple quite unique and well-hidden things. And then Nanakos tweets 2 hours later, they can't keep getting away with it. The same duo who found the other half of the Civil Protector now have found the Matryoshka doll relic. Right, so this is starting to get a little suspicious. This is their screenshot, and they've got the relic solved, and, I mean, this is what it looks like. Interesting, right? What the hell's going on here? In 2 hours? Back to back? What? So Nanakos is like, okay, seems to be solved. You place 3 C4s on the 3 meat piles on the circle platform on Mars. You train a big horde of zombies on the platform and detonate them together. And using insta-kill makes it easy, although I think since then it's been found that it's not 100% necessary. Might just be explosive kills in general on the platform. We don't know specifics yet, but that's how you do it. You just detonate them together on those meat piles. And then the next tweet says, here's the first replication. Now we've just got to find the small nuances in regards to the portal trigger, but Vrouse here did manage to do it. Thanks to the Chinese lol. So again, you might be thinking right now, maybe these guys are just cracked. Who knows? Or maybe they've been already working on this stuff in China, and it's only just getting to us now in the like Western zombies community. Maybe there's just been a lag in them spreading their information to us, but it's not actually all being solved back to back, right? It might not seem that dramatic. Then we get a video showcasing the doll relic trigger from Mate 1. So we can take a quick look at this now, because I think this will be just a nice little bit of visual interest to keep you guys iPad babied along while we go through the video here. So they're placing their C4s. They're popping their insta-kill there just to make their life a little bit easier, make sure that they get what they need to do. And then, I mean, sort of as described by Nanakos, as you're going to see in a second here, they've popped it, exploded on the meat pile, and that's going to open up the portal for them, I think, in just a moment. On the other side, we should see in a second here. Or maybe they're not going to go to it. Maybe they're just going to cut it off there. Okay, well, still, that's that. And then Nanakos is excited, right? Saying, yeah, it's beautiful. People are getting the doll. That's really cool. And then the Spork got found. And that's when the suspicion, I think, began. This is super sus, says Nanakos. The Discord's saying, I think Spork is solved. They have to be doing something. Ain't no way. This can't be real. Can't believe it. Starting to get very, very sus. And to be clear, this means, with the Spork solved as well, every single cursed relic was now solved from that point on. The same Chinese duo who solved the other half of Civil, not even 2 hours ago, just solved the doll and now just solved the Spork. Like, what on earth is happening here? Here's their screenshot. Again, entirely in Chinese. This time it looks like they're in a 4-player game, actually. But still, this is very suspect, right? Very, very suspect. The Spork unlock seems to be kills in the ritual circle at the planetarium with the Mangler cannon. Yikes. They immediately solved doll and just happened to have the exact needed to solve the next one within a few minutes of doing the last one. He had the Mangler cannon since dolls. He knew. Something's up, right? We finally got all the relics. Here's 0, finally a picture that's not photoshopped with all the relics. Here's a little bit more of an in-depth relic guide for the dolls. You do need to use C4 for it. Other explosives do not work. Here's another post from Nanakos for the Spork. You shoot the Mangler cannon while at Mars into the teleporter, and then you go through the teleporter. The shot gets sucked into the teleporter, and then you run to the ritual circle in the library. After 10 seconds, the shot will come out of the portal and shoot towards the red ritual circle on the ground, and you need that shot to kill zombies standing inside the ritual circle. Like, that is a seriously, seriously techie Easter egg, and it was solved in 10 minutes by this team. And then it gets to this part of the night, 2 hours ago, about 9 hours after the initial solve here, and Nanakos tweets this, which is actually in response to the Zone tweet that we should look at first. He says, he just got confirmation that unless something massively changes, all solves for BO7 can be data mined. All of them. It's absolutely GG. I've never seen anything like this before. I'd argue that BO4 was sort of similar in some ways at launch because of Call of Nobody Cares, but it's definitely not quite at this level. If the tool can be used on older games, and I don't see why it couldn't, then we could see a crazy amount of solves incoming. And again, the thing there is, we have actually had tools like this for some of the older games. So we have had slews of solves like this, where strings, for example, have been able to be read and solves have come through that way. So not completely the first time this has ever happened, but it's never happened in this way during a live game before. During Black Ops 7, the tool being live for Black Ops 7 is a new thing. And Zone says, even if this somehow wasn't used for these 3 solves, there's now a tool that is capable of doing this. Reality says, I would have to imagine the relic logic is handled through GSC, so I'm going to guess it's not going to be changing. And Zone says, I'm told you're right. And Zone also says, in response to this question, saying, is this a new tool or what? Otherwise, why hasn't this been leaked now and not previously, especially for Ash's last relic? And Zone says, the guy I spoke to made this 3 days ago and the tool is in beta, but he believes others might have fully made this tool and perhaps that's where the Chinese team got their information from. And then in response to asking, could this also affect main Easter egg hunts, Zone says 1000%. The last part of the Zone thread I want to draw attention to is the fact that the streamer went straight to playing 4-man on Moon for some reason, after doing all of this stuff. So they wouldn't be surprised if they're going to solve other things now as well. So as Zone said, we really might see a slew of solves for old stuff that we had no idea was even there. That is possible, by all means. And Nanakos reinforced this by saying, people really don't understand how bad this is. You can already import entire models of any zombies map into Blender or any other 3D software. And essentially, you can grab the map triggers and overlay them, which lets you visually see exactly where every trigger on the map is located at. So even with this alone, we're cooked. Like, that is a very cooked place to be. And that's at the basic level. Didn't seem very hard for the person we've been talking to easily be able to visualize map triggers. There's probably way more you could do if someone actually dedicated the time to doing something like that. And it seems like they have. Right? It seems like such a thing exists. So what that is going to look like is it's going to look like a zombies map releasing and the map file being ripped, put into Blender, someone overlaying the map triggers, and then basically going, okay, I know that this trigger is located in this coordinate. So I'm going to run over there in the map and I'm just going to play around with everything I can with this exact coordinate. And maybe there's an exact model there. And then maybe they do the same thing that we were talking about at the beginning of the video, where they can toggle models on or off, or they can tell which models are interactable with thermal scopes or things along those lines. Whether that's data mining or not, there are multiple paths towards making those inferences. And they then say, okay, I know at this part of the map, this fountain is an interactable model, and it's in the location where there's an interactable trigger, so I'm going to mess around and do everything I can with the fountain, and then things are just going to get solved straight away. Seemingly. So that's pretty rough. That's pretty rough in terms of the likelihood that this becomes a problem for future maps in this game. I think that likelihood is very high. I think the realistic place that we're at is it's going to be pretty difficult for Treyarch to change the architecture of what they're doing to such a great extent that this would become impossible over the course of the DLC season for this game. Like, generally, these things are pretty fixed in development, and if people find a way to kind of break in mid-game, the devs can do very small things to try and obfuscate things and try and hide things and try and trip up the data miners, but they actually don't have a huge amount of power once the game is live. It's kind of just their structure has been broken, and the structure is much harder to change than the decoration on the structure, so to speak, to use a sort of very basic analogy. So what's this going to actually mean? It might mean that every hunt from here is compromised. It might do. However, it also might not do if we're in a scenario where the map comes out and Treyarch does enough of a change in the first 24 hours that the data miners basically have to catch up, and they have to change their programs, change their software, change their scripts, change whatever they're doing in order to be able to account for the new update. And that takes a bit of time. And in that time, the main quest is solved organically. That may be the case as well. In fact, we've seen that happen with tools already. Historically, a lot of the time for thumbnail artists, this is a big thing where a new game will come out and the tools that are used to extract models from the game need to be updated in order to be able to run the new EXE, like the new version of the game that's just released that we didn't have access to prior. And that takes a little bit of time. So thumbnail artists that are trying to pull models immediately when a game comes out often have to wait until the tool's updated by someone else, and then they can get their update. So what that could mean is that the people developing these tools, similar to how it's actually happened in the past, even with thumbnail artists, they could kind of have an amnesty. They could come together and say, we're not going to release the tool until the main quest is solved, for example. However, the fact that it's out there in people's hands now and people are using it for relic solves suggests to me that there are some folks out there that are developing these tools that don't care about the sanctity of the hunts and like all that sort of jazz. And so they're just like, well, I'm just going to release it, especially if a Chinese streamer, for example, is paying for the tool, and a lot of the time money will be exchanged in the development of these sorts of tools. Maybe the people that are developing it are going to be like, I don't care. Why would I care? I'm being paid, so I'm going to just do the thing I'm being paid for, right? So it's a complex situation. It's an unusual situation. It's one that the zombies community has kind of been on the periphery of this big potential problem for a very, very long time. I think a lot of people have this concept in their heads that the Easter eggs that we've had in the past, every single one of them, it's been flawless in terms of lack of leaks. It's been flawless in terms of Treyarch execution, or it's been flawless in terms of the way that the community has been noble in solving the whole thing. You go back as early as the first game where Easter eggs were even significantly present in Black Ops 1, right? Our first proper Easter egg was Ascension. I'm not counting Deriz for the purpose of this comment. We had leaks back then for full Easter eggs being solved. Like, this is a tale as old as time in the zombies community. It's not a new thing. It's just that over the years, those types of leaks have come in forms that have been sort of more or less crazy. We had leaks where entire maps and steps and things were leaked through Treyarch legal teams. We've had leaks where things have come out through Reddit, through ex-devs that were fired, like Call of Nobody Cares. We've had leaks that have come out through people like Nanakos being able to get in there and look at the strings and then make inferences from the strings. We've had other leaks that have come out from people fully decompiling scripts. We've had other leaks that have come out from assessing models, and now this is an evolved version of that. Like, there's been so many versions of this. We've had Treyarch devs donating to streamers. We've had Treyarch devs in people's chats. We've had just mysterious solves that have seemed really sus, and we've still never gotten to the bottom of exactly how they were solved because they were so sus, but then the trailer's gone cold. Like, there's been so much drama around this topic over the years, and Treyarch has been fighting a losing battle, I would argue, against data miners for forever. It's been a very long time. I mean, it's also not new to modern zombies. Some people think, oh, it's just a problem with the old games. This was a problem in Cold War. I remember this being a problem in Cold War. I remember people already knowing certain models to be looking out for during the Outbreak Easter egg. I remember that. It was something that came out before the map even came out. People knew what to look for. Oh, sorry, before the egg even came out, people knew what to look for. So these things are very much a persistent feature of the zombies community. And I don't know how Treyarch is going to deal with it this time. I don't know. There's an argument that could be made to say Treyarch should do better in hiding their stuff and locking down their stuff if they actually care about preserving the Easter egg hunt or the relic hunt or what have you. They should be doing a better job of actually stopping people from data mining. There's an argument there. There's also an argument that where there's a will, there's a way. And at the end of the day, Treyarch is a finite team with finite resources, and it's a finite piece of software. And if you really work hard enough, you can get into anything, right? Like, it's just software at the end of the day. And especially with the way that development is accelerating with the use of AI in software development and the potential time that can be saved with things like that, it means that things that maybe a couple of years ago would have been too time consuming for someone to do, and therefore there was just a barrier to entry of data mining in this way, of the sheer workload that would be required to get those answers, and that seeming like a deterrent in itself. Now, those things are going to get done a lot quicker. Right? That's just the nature of the industry. That's the nature of progress. That's the nature of acceleration. That's the nature of these things. So I don't know how Treyarch's going to deal with this, but I wanted to make a video about this right now to flag, I think Nanakos has done a really good job here, and Zone's done a really good job here as well of kind of helping us piece together a bit of a timeline here, especially because so many people are so leaned out of Black Ops 7 right now for good reason. We thought we were going to be getting a new zombies map in the next 5 days. Turns out we're getting a zombies map a month from now, and it's going to be an Alpha Omega remake, seemingly, Paradox Junction. But so many people are leaned out right now. It's really great to have some folks that are still kind of like plugging along and keeping an eye on things here. And it's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be a very interesting year because we've got 4 maps left. It's crazy to say it, but there are 5 DLCs for this game. 4 entire maps all being solved the second of release would be nuts. That would be nuts. And it might be reality. And so the thing that I think the community needs to recognize is going to happen is this stuff is going to come out, and no matter how much a request you make of everyone to hold hands and be noble about this, there are going to be people that know what the steps are. There are going to be people that know, oh yeah, you have to go stand here. They don't know exactly what it is they have to do. They have to interact with a fountain maybe. They start fiddling. They figure it out. And it's going to be impossible to engage with the hunts in the way that we normally would do. Like, if the information is there, the information is there. And the only other option would be to do blind solves, like I was doing actually in Destiny. But the problem is that my general audience, as much as the like folks in the comments section, you guys might disagree with this, but the net total audience that I have, which is millions of people, not hundreds, as we'll comment on this video, those millions of people would rather I just make the guide as soon as possible, and that means that I don't do a blind solve that takes me a week, but actually if it's been solved by someone else, then it's known how to do it, right? And blind solves have just never really been a thing that I've engaged with in zombies because of that. At the end of the day, my business also relies on me making my guide. It's just the nature of the business. It's going to be a weird year. I'm certainly not going to seek out this tool. I can't be asked, to be honest. I'm interested in it from almost more so like an archaeological point of view. Like, I'm very curious if this ends up getting used for some of the older games. I just love learning new things about those older games that I've played so many times and not realized that certain things are right under my nose. So if that does happen, I'll be keeping an eye on it for sure. But for now, I'm busy doing other stuff, bro. Zombies is not that compelling to me this year, so I'm going to be tapping in when Zombies gets hot for DLCs, and then we're going to be trying out a lot of other stuff in the gaps so that I don't go insane. So that's where we're at. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Let's make this a conversation. Maybe some of my plans can be informed by what you guys want me to do and how you guys want me to behave going into Paradox Junction in March, presumably. So for now, thanks for watching. Thanks Nanacoast and thanks Zone for the tweets here to kind of give us the story. I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.